Hi, this is Brett Ingram, entrepreneur and award-winning product creator. And today I want to share with you why you should forget about productivity and do this instead. So productivity is a huge buzzword, right? Especially in the entrepreneurial community. Everybody always talks about it. Everyone always thinks about how we can get more done, how we can be more productive, and how we can build our businesses and grow them faster and easier. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is it conjures up images of people with their head down and grinding to try to outwork everyone. The idea that, you have this S on your chest, like you are superhuman and you can do what no one else could ever do. You could outwork them. You could spend more time. You could sleep less. You could, neglect your diet. You could not care about your body and all these other things and sacrifice anything and everything required to be able to get to where it is that you want to go. And while there's certainly something admirable about that, and there's certainly something that is, respectable from the perspective of willing to give so much to get something that you want. Nobody can ever fault anyone for feeling that way. However, the unfortunate part about that is when your only focus or when our only idea to get to where we want to be is we're just going to work as hard as we physically need to and as hard as we possibly need to get there. Unfortunately, what ends up happening is it doesn't end up being sort of a badge of courage for your strong work ethic. But unfortunately, we end up running ourselves into the ground. And, that's only one of the few problems, right? So we work so hard, we don't take any breaks, and we don't take care of ourselves. What ends up happening first is we start to break down. Our body breaks down, our mind breaks down. We can't think as clearly, we don't feel as good, we don't feel as balanced, and our bodies are not in as good a shape as they should be in terms of trying to achieve peak performance. The second issue is that plain and simple, life gets in the way, right? We can't always outwork everybody else. We can't always just work, depending on our life. If we have families, if we have kids, if we have commitments, if we have other things that we have to do, even if we don't have a personal life ourselves or things that we're doing for fun or enjoyment ourselves that are getting in the way, there are going to be other commitments in life that do. And the idea, just the whole vernacular that they're getting in the way is a problem in and of itself, right? Because those should be things that we're looking forward to. Those should be things that we, want to spend our time on and want to use that as sort of a balance and a break from what we're doing. But unfortunately, if you're in the throes of it and building it, and I've been there, especially when I was starting out, it can feel like everything is an inconvenience. Everything is an interruption. And you're constantly trying to get to where you're going. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's because you're just trying to accomplish something and it's really, really difficult. And it requires a tremendous amount of work to get there. Totally understandable. But the third problem is that we sometimes, when we're so focused on productivity, we can get lots done, but are we even doing things that matter? Are the things that we're getting done, are our big accomplishments for the day or for the week, even the things that are ultimately that necessary? So if we think about sort of an imaginary day, and this is rooted in reality because elements of this I've taken from my own schedule in life, and others I've taken from people I've spoken to or things that I've seen in terms of the challenges that entrepreneurs face. But if we think about an imaginary day, and it doesn't have to be in this order, but let's just imagine that one of the things that we're doing during the day is we're reading, checking our emails, we're reading our emails, and we're replying them, right? So it's totally harmless. It's something that everybody needs to do. You're going to get messages. You're going to get people trying to communicate with you. So you need to be able to read through that stuff. You need to be able to reply. So it totally makes sense, right? Reading and replying to emails. Maybe, if we have an online business or a website or whatever, we're checking our traffic and our sales stats. Obviously, again, very important, right? Because we're in a situation where if our business is our, livelihood, then it matters, like how much we're selling and how many customers we're getting and how much traffic is coming to our sites. And all those things are super important and super valuable, right? But at the same time, it's another thing that needs to be done. So we might do that. Another thing we might do is read our social media feed, right? So if we have social media accounts, one of the things that we might want to do is scroll through them, because we want to see, has anybody commented on anything? Has anybody posted anything new? Maybe we're using it for, market intelligence or market research. We're trying to, whether we're looking at customer feeds or feeds coming from people that we know, or maybe competitors or whatever, or people that we respect and look up to from a business perspective or for entrepreneurial advice, we want to see what's going on, right? So scroll through our feed, maybe do a post or maybe a comment, right? So we're commenting on things and stuff like that. Well, the challenge is, and the problem is, right, that's all going to keep us very busy. And at the end of the day, if we've done that, in addition to obviously some other stuff that we need to do, whether it's product development or whether it's working on our website or, writing copy for our new ads or whatever it is, but the majority of the things that we talked about are things that will make us feel very busy, right? So we get to the end of the day and we start to feel as though, wow, I put in a good day's work today. I was really busy. I got a lot done and, all that. I can feel like we actually worked hard, because if we're tired at the end of the day and we feel like, we didn't have any spare time, we didn't waste any time. It's not like we were online shopping or, watching funny videos or anything like that. But at the end of the day, if those were the main things that we did, what have we actually got done? What have we actually accomplished? What are the things that we've done that actually move the ball down the field in terms of getting to where we want to be? See, the problem is those tasks, even though they're not high impact, right? None of those are high impact. You don't actually have to check your sales stats. Most of the stuff in terms of emails that you're going to reply to, unless it happens to be like a particular bid that you did and the person's saying, congratulations, reply, and you've got our bid or whatever. A few emails might have high impact like that, but the vast majority of them, we can agree, are not really that high impact. And, the thing is, we do want to do that stuff. It feels good, for one, that makes sense. But also, we do need to do it. We can't just ignore all of our stats, and we can't ignore our emails, and we can't ignore, our branding or social media, presence and all those kinds of things. But at the same time, they aren't things that are high enough leverage that are really going to produce anything for us going forward. So the question is, if we need to do all that stuff, but we need to do all these other things too, and the answer isn't working hard, so what do we do? What exactly do we do? What is the answer? How do we run a business and get everything done while not simultaneously running ourselves into the ground doing it? And the answer and the key is really to focus on efficiency and throughput, right? So there's a lot of talk about productivity. And if you look at the textbook definition, it actually makes more sense, right? You're getting more out of what you're putting in and things like that. So the true definition of productivity is essentially, in some ways, what we're after. Unfortunately, what happens is that people's association with productivity is not actually productivity at all. It's just harder work, harder and harder and harder work, longer hours, outdoing everybody else, and to some extent, I see it and it makes me cringe. I see people bragging about how much they work or how hard they work or how they would, and again, I get it. And I think that that's respectable on one hand, but I think it's foolhardy on another, because we can only as human beings put up with that for so long before we start to break down. I did it. I worked 16-hour days. I worked 18-hour days for a period of time. But I recognized that I needed to transition. I needed to find a way to do it differently. So it isn't about how to work more to get more done, but rather how to get more done faster and easier, right? So if we can get the same amount or more done, so we can check all the boxes we need to check, but we can do that faster and easier, then we're on to something, because now we can produce all the things that we need to, but we aren't doing it at our own personal expense, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So it's not just about outsourcing or delegation either. Obviously that's low-hanging fruit. And if you have a budget, that's fantastic to be able to just say, you know what, you're right. I don't want to spend the time, doing my emails. I'm going to hire a virtual admin. I don't want to spend the time making graphics. I'm going to hire a graphic designer. Not everybody is in a situation to just be able to do that. And quite frankly, it's not always the best answer. Damon John, one of the sharks from Shark Tank, one of the things that he credits with his success is how hard he had to struggle and the bootstrapping he had to do when he was building his clothing company, because he didn't have extra resources where he could just say, you know what, I'll just throw money at the problem. So he had to get creative. He had to get innovative. He had to get, super efficient at everything that he did. So as he grew, there was minimal waste. One of the interesting dynamics about inefficiency and about waste is that whatever we have when we're small, as we grow, it expands. And so if we're wasting something when we're on a small basis and then we start to grow our business, the waste gets greater and greater and greater. And that makes it harder to be profitable. So it's actually, there's something to be said anyway about wanting to be lean and efficient right out of the gate. So we're not just talking about outsourcing and delegation, although that can be great in certain places. There are a lot of other answers if we just ask the right questions. So when I think about this in the context of my own business and just in my recent business, right? So when I started out years and years ago, basically what I was doing was sort of info products and things. And then I got into done-for-you services. And I thought that was really great because you could make a lot of money and everybody really wanted them, right? Because they want stuff done for them. The problem with that is you're exchanging time for money. So it's the opposite of getting efficient or lean or doing things faster and easier. It was higher converting. You could sell more and all of that, but it was ultimately more work. And I realized intuitively after doing that for a short period of time, that would never work. I couldn't do that long term unless I was going to build an army of outsourcers that were all doing things for me and doing them for me cheap. And so I recognized intuitively I had to switch that. And I started to get more into software and things like that, higher leverage stuff just in general. But in more recent times, basically my business model has been essentially twofold. So on the one hand, I do email marketing. So I do a lot of affiliate marketing where I'm promoting my partners' products. I have a lot of affiliates and partners in my industry. And so when we create and launch products, we promote each other's, do all that kind of thing. So that's one sort of pillar or segment of it. The other segment of it is my own product development and launch. So I like to create software products and then I basically launch them into the marketplace. And for a number of years, I was in a position where I had this great idea about how I was going to build this into an empire. And I was going to do it by, building and launching these products. And then I had all these other ideas for what I wanted to do. And what I found out is the more that I did it, the more that I was constantly feeling as though I didn't have enough time to get to the stuff that I really needed to do. So I was doing the product development and I was able to make a new product, then I was able to launch it. But it was sort of a sprint. And then I always told myself once that sprint was over, I would be able to focus on what I really wanted to do. And I'd be able to build this, bigger and do higher leverage stuff. What ended up happening is it would launch. It took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to. And then I realized as soon as it launched, well, if I didn't start on the next product right away, the problem was that one wasn't going to be ready to launch in time, and that one was going to run behind. So it was this cycle that just kept going. And I couldn't let the email go because I need to make sure that I'm mailing for my partners, so they want to mail for me, but also it's a revenue source. So I need to take the time to craft the emails and make sure, look at the products I want to promote, create good emails that are value add for people, and then send them out. So ultimately what was happening is I was sort of treading water. I was able to get the email marketing piece of it done and I was able to get the product development piece of it done and then launch them. But I kept telling myself that right after the next one, I was going to be able to unlock the next level of stuff that I wanted to do. And unfortunately, that next level never came because I was constantly in that same cycle of doing it and doing it and doing it. And so I was feeling like I was overworked. I was feeling exhausted by just doing that, even though my work days had come way down to normal. So I had balance in my life doing this. I have kids and I was like doing their sports and school and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, I have a family, we vacation, we try. So I was able to live a more balanced life. But from my work perspective, all I was able to do was the launch cycle, the email cycle, and that's really it. So I was getting really frustrated because I wanted to scale far bigger. I wanted to do a lot more things, and I just could never quite get to that stuff that I needed to. And I kept telling myself I would, but I would never get there. So eventually, I got to a point where I had this realization about the productivity issue, right? And I thought about how I could get everything done faster and easier and more efficiently. So instead of just trying to get more done and like racing through it to get it more done, I started to think about what are different ways that I could structure this so that way it would take less time, I would be able to get more done, and I'd be able to get it done faster. And by the way, I wanted to also do it without just throwing money at it. I didn't want to just outsource, well, I'll just outsource the email marketing. I'll just outsource this, I'll outsource that. I didn't really want to do that either because I didn't want to increase my expenses by so much that I then needed to generate a lot more in order to make it all work. I wanted to do it within the context of what I was already doing. So I'll give you some examples of some of the stuff that I was able to do. So from an email marketing standpoint, what I did was I started to track all the emails that I was sending. And I looked for the ones that had really good open rates. I know that if a lot of people open my email, it means the headline was really good. Because the only thing the headline does is get people to open the email. It doesn't get them to click or to buy, right? If I had body copy, like if I got a lot of clicks on a particular email, then I know that that email itself, the body of the email, was really effective. Because again, the only goal of the body of the email, if you're trying to promote an affiliate product, is to get people to click on the link. So if I'm getting a lot of clicks, then I know that the email was good. And then obviously, if I'm getting a lot of sales or commissions, then I know that the product I was promoting is good. So any email that I had with high open rates, I started to track all those headlines. Any email that I had that had lots of clicks, I started to track those body copies. And then any of the products that I promoted that sold really well, I started to track those too. So what I did was I was able to create a system where I can reuse the same high quality headlines, same high quality bodies, and make some edits to them, but I basically have templates for them. And when I have an opening in my email marketing calendar, instead of searching for what I should promote next, I have a list of products that I know were high converting. So as long as they're evergreen, I can go back to those at any time, re-promote them, and generate more. That right in and of itself, I did it all myself. So I didn't pay anybody to do this. I didn't spend any extra money. I cut my email marketing down timing-wise by probably 50%. So I added that much extra time to every given day just by doing that one little step. It was a little extra work in the beginning, but now I know what emails I can send that will work, and I know what products people want, and I know what headlines to use to get them to open the emails. So I'll still experiment with new stuff and occasionally write new things and stuff like that, but I have templates that I can use, which is far better than starting from scratch every day with a blank screen trying to type out an email. That one little thing, since I do it every single day, is a big savings. The other thing I did was I looked at my product development and launch cycle. And what I decided was, because I had a flagship product that I had been meaning to create and could never get to, I decided what I would do is I would find other people out there that had products that were good, that maybe they needed help with the marketing side because I had the affiliate connections. And I started to partner with other marketers and other product developers. So now the launches that I do, I don't need to develop all the products. I don't need to develop all the launch materials because I have partners who are doing that. I do the promotion and I do a bunch of other elements to it, so it's a joint effort. But I cut my work down by over 50% for my product development and launch. Now, I do have to split the revenue, obviously, with that, but it allows me to keep that cycle going, and every launch brings in a bunch of new leads as in terms of the buyers that add to the list, so it makes the email marketing more productive, which then in turn helps me promote for my affiliates, which then in turn gets them to promote for me, and so it's a whole cycle that works better. And now it's running a lot more efficiently without me doing all the product development and without me doing all of the launch work in terms of the marketing to get it ready. So what does this mean? What this means is that's all the stuff I was doing before, and that's as far as I could get. Now I'm doing all of that. I'm developing my new flagship product, which I've been working on for a while. I'm able to put plenty of time into that and really develop it to get it exactly where I want it to be. And I started a podcast that I do daily. So I've been doing this for the last several months, and I'm able to do it every single day without fail because I have all that ability. Now I'm unlocking all of those things that I wanted to do, and I'm doing it because I focused on how I could do things faster and easier and more efficiently with what I was already doing. So to make those changes, it's important to note, I'm not working any extra hours. So I'm not staying up later, I'm not getting up earlier. I work a plenty full week, but it's the same week I was doing when I was just doing emails and launches. And I'm working the same amount, but I'm actually able to get a lot more done. The other thing is, in terms of net hiring, I have a net hiring and outsourcing of 0. So I did add 2 outsourcers to do what I'm doing right now, but I also let go 2 others. All I did was I shifted the work toward other priorities that were higher leverage for me. So that way I was able to get more done. So it's a net 0 in terms of the additional extra work for me and additional extra cost for me. And yet I'm able to do a lot more. So it's not about pushing ourselves as hard as we can for as long as we can, but rather asking the right questions to get the results we want. So the takeaway here is that entrepreneurs will always feel the pull to do more, but we're human and not machines. So we can't work around the clock every day without breaking down physically, mentally, or emotionally, or all 3. So instead of focusing on productivity, which usually equates to working harder or longer to be more productive ourselves, we should focus on efficiency and throughput. What is the simplest and fastest way to get each task done? When we look through that lens, we can achieve both greater balance and performance, and in turn transform our workdays, our businesses, and our lives.